Hey, how's it going? It's Undead Frankie, and today I'm just going to be showing you how to export models from Saints Row 1. Now, this video assumes that you already have the modding directory set up, but if you don't, go watch Flippy's video about it. It's designed to work with all models as far as I can tell, but if you notice any formats that I've missed in this video, just let me know. Now when you're in your file directory, you're going to look for your pack files folder, and in here you're going to have all the files that make up the game. So the ones we're mostly interested in are MP City Stream, SMesh, SR City Stream, and CMesh. If you wanted to unpack CMesh, for example, you'd move it over into this input folder like this, or copy it, and then you'd run the unpack bat file, and what that'll do is it'll unpack the contents of this and move it into this backup folder. And the unpacked results will be in here. Ignore the VPP one, that's just a backup of my other modding folder. As you can see, you get this huge list full of all the different props and models in the games, as well as their textures. And when you're looking through these, it's going to help to have the folders sorted by type. So here I have it showing cars, CMesh. These are the kinds of files you want to be opening to extract into models. Okay, so what you'll want to do is you'll want to open File under this File menu and navigate to the CMesh or the BB chunk or the car, Xbox 2, whatever file you're trying to extract. You're going to open it here in Model Researcher. Alright, so once you've opened your model, what you're going to want to do is change your byte order. By default it'll be set to Little Endian, but you're going to want to set it to Big Endian because it's an Xbox game. Now, when we go to the faces, we're going to have to set type from integer to short. And we're going to set the format from triangles to T-strip. And then we're going to go up to vertices and change it from XYZ to ZYX. So basically reverse. With that, yeah, we have everything set up. When trying to find the indices, there's one trick that we can use to find them somewhat easily, and it's by paying attention to the decoded text section on the right of the bytes. So as you can see, there's some symbols and a lot of unlegible things, but as we start to move down, we see these sections of uppercase and lowercase letters. Typically that's indices. In this instance it isn't, so we'll keep going, and we'll keep going down past it. Here we see a lot of padding. This looks like another section, so at 2000, right here, is the start of our indices. We can tell because it's 01, 02, 03, 03, 04, and it keeps going. Another thing about Saints Row in particular that I've noticed is that oftentimes the indices will start on multiples of 1,000. So if I go to Control G and type in 1000 as hex, navigate there. In this instance, we don't have a start of an indice here, but let's try 2000. And as we already know, at 2000 we have our indices. And some it'll be at 1000, some it'll be 2, 3000, just depends. The larger the model, the more pairs, the more sets of indices, and the more meshes that it'll have. One other trick you can try to find the indices is do a search. Go to the hex value section and type in 0001000200. And if you want, you can set your search direction to all, or just make sure that you're scrolled all the way to the top and click search all. Now you'll get a few different results. I can already tell you just by looking at this strip, this is like not that isn't any kind of indices, but this definitely is. So that's just another way you can find it. Now once you've found what you think are indices, you're going to type in the offset or the place in the file to start at. So we said it would be 2000, so that's where we're going to start. Again, in this instance, I know that there's no padding for the indices, but just leave that at 0. I've never seen any instance of it having padding there. For the count, we're just going to go like 100. And up here we're just going to set it to faces only and hit print. If you get a result like this, this is a good thing. This means that you're printing your indices correctly. If they're counting up like this and mostly in a uniform way, 15, 17, 20, 23, there, that looks good. Now onto the vertices. This is really the only section that changes from file to file. We don't change anything about the type or the format for the faces depending on the files, but depending on what type of file and where you're extracting it from, like CMesh, BBchunk, whatever, SR City Stream, you're going to have different numbers for padding. Now, before we fully jump into that, I'll just tell you where the vertices are. Now in this case, the vertices are going to start right after the indices, and that's pretty much true for all models. So when we look here, it says 27EO or E0. You'll want to copy that number into your offset. So 27E0. Now again, we're going to have to start counting. I'm going to quickly switch to vertices, and I'll just put in 100. Or actually, I'll do 1,000. Okay. That is a really bad sign. Right off the rip, if you see stuff like 50 billion or whatever this number is, you know you've gone way too far. It's just not right. Now, this is where padding comes into play. There's a certain amount of space in between each vertice that doesn't exist for the indices. The indices are just, you read them as a block, right? With the vertices, it's not like that. There's gaps in between where there's other data that personally I haven't figured out yet, but there's other data in between there. So you're going to want to set your padding to different values depending on the file. The values I've seen personally have been 8, which it's not in this case, 12, it's not that in this case either, 20, well, that's why you don't do 1,000, by the way. You do a small number because the more padding you add, the more, it's not 20 either, 24, that's getting close, but not quite, and 32. 32 is the most padding I've seen, and yeah, you can see it's very uniform. The numbers are within a certain range, everything looks good. So again, for this, you can use the viewer, you can do it either way, but you're just gonna have to navigate to the end of the bytes. You can do the same trick from before. I mean, yeah, that looks good. Yeah, so normally what I was going to try to show you is that if you go over, it'll either give you all zeros or it'll give you like massive numbers again. So just be careful of that. But hey, again, in this case, it seemed to work out pretty well. Now I'm just going to render the vertices first, and then we'll look at the faces. I mean, that looks like a tank top. Yeah. Faces, render. Yeah. The normals are pretty messed up on it. Faces are probably flipped inside out, and there's some extra faces or geometry on the inside there, but nothing too unfixable. Make sure you save a template, because if you don't have a template, you can't go back in to Model Researcher easily and make changes, you know? If I wanted to close out of this, I could, and I could reopen it and open my template and have all of this information automatically fill in for me. It makes editing way easier, and they're tiny files, so I highly recommend using those templates. Alright, now to open it up, I'm just going to use Windows default 3D viewer, and we'll take a look at the model. And yeah, the two things that pop out immediately are that it's very rigid looking. It's got a lot of like visible polygons and these extra faces here. So let me show you how to clean this up and make it look legit. Alright, so briefly, you'll just want to click File, go to Import, and then you'll be able to import your model as an OBJ. I like to delete the cube and the camera and the lighting source and all that. But here we go. Here is our model that we've exported from Saints Row 1. Now we're just going to click on it, and the first thing we'll do is get rid of these jagged faces. We'll click Shade and Shade Smooth. And right off the bat, that's already a huge improvement. There is some normals problems, but I'll show you how to fix that in a second too. But first thing you want to do, just go into Edit, and up here at the top you'll have a Faces Select button, and you can just do this. Right click and click Delete Face. And there's a couple extra here up at the top. Get rid of those. Let's see. Again, depending on the model, this will be more or less difficult. I think we're pretty good. I mean, this doesn't have to be perfect, it's just for the tutorial, but let's see. I can't tell if that's intentional or if that's accidental. If that strip is supposed to be there, I think it might be intentional. Yeah. Alright. Now, what you're going to do to check the, finish checking the faces, you can select Render. This is Render Viewport. Yeah, like I said, normals are messed up. If we go to Edit Mode, and we go to this cube here, or this drop down, I mean, Overlay, we can select Face Orientation. And here we can see the problem immediately. Everything in red needs to be flipped to blue. And to do that, we can just select the faces like this. I'm not going to bore you by doing the whole process, but if you hold shift click, you can select faces that are only visible at the moment. So you can just do this and just go through, select everything you got to select. And when you've selected all your faces, you go to Mesh, Normals, Flip, like that. And ideally that should correct a lot of the lighting issues. Again, I would have to test it to see on this model, but I'll probably jump cut for that. Alright, so here we can see it. I got most of the faces flipped. So, from my understanding, red should be on the inside, blue should be on the outside. And let's go back here to, oh, we gotta go to Edit Mode. Disable that, and here we go. Here's our model. If you decide that you still want to edit it more, here, let me. You can go over here and click Normals and click Auto Smooth. I like to leave it on default. Depends on the model. In this case, honestly, I think it looks better without it. This is how you can export models from the Saints Row 1 format to OBJ and import them into Blender or any other toolset. Okay, so I'm just going to quickly show you guys how multiple meshes work. So once you've entered in your parameters and you set it, this is for a BB chunk, so it's using 20 for padding and all that stuff. You click this green arrow, it'll add a mesh. I've already added multiple here, and we can click Render to render the current mesh that we have selected. We can do that for each of them if we want, but what you'll likely want to do is click the Display All Meshes. Once you get, of course, to the end, it'll look something like this. This is obviously has a lot of extra faces, but you can see we have the full model there, and each piece is colored differently.